right, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. We see a few folks joining in. We will allow a couple of minutes for others to join. My name is Jenna. I handle partner and field marketing here at Daasity. So if you are wanting to learn more about how to use fairing data a little bit better, you're in the right place. I'd love it if you all could type in the chat where you're joining from, just so we can see where everybody's located. I am joining from Amarillo, Texas. It's up in the Panhandle. It is not Austin. It's not like the cool place to be, but I'm happy I'm in Texas. So if you'd like to share where you are, looks like South Carolina, howdy, howdy. Gillette, New Jersey, good. Here we go. Oh, Chicago, I used to live there, I miss it. Cool. So I will let our panel introduce themselves. So guys, I know a few of you also have further intros teed up, but if you just want to introduce yourself, what company you work for, and where you are joining from today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jenna. Very nice to have everyone joining us this afternoon or in the morning, depending on where you're dialing in from. My name is Alden Morse. I'm the head of partnerships for Fairing, which I'll share more on here in just a few minutes. And as I just ruined the surprise in the chat, I'm dialing in from Gillette, New Jersey, about 45 minutes west of the city.
Great. Marcel?
Yeah, I'm Marcel Fafard. I'm at Daasity. I'm a solutions engineer. I've been working here for over 2 years, and I've been a developer. I've managed accounts. I'm a solutions engineer now, and I'm coming in from San Diego, California.
Thank you. Brandon?
I'm Brandon. I'm the founder of Electric. We're a Shopify Plus retention marketing agency, and I'm calling in from Miami.
Great. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll before you get started. Alden, I know that you were curious about something. So if you can all see this poll, it's asking about dark attribution. So what percentage of your sales are dark? And then in parentheses, direct source or unknown source. And I'll give just a couple minutes for folks to answer. And then Alden, if you want to go ahead and take the screen, you could do that, and I'll end the poll. All right. Sharing the results. So it looks like the majority say 20 to 30%. Oh, Alden, you're on mute.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's probably relatively in line with what we would have expected to see. It's actually funny. I was thinking about offering a 25% option, but that felt a little bit too easy to give folks, but obviously that would fall right in the middle there. So I'll be able to share more, and it's going to make a lot more sense as to why that was something that we at Fairing would be curious on here. So let me share my screen here. Cool. All right, so everyone should be able to see. Now we're going to dive into Fairing. So as I mentioned briefly, my name is Alden Morse. I'm the head of partnerships for Fairing. And in short, we do post-purchase surveys, and we work with a number of leading direct-to-consumer brands. And they rely on Fairing's post-purchase surveys as a key pillar for their zero-party data strategies inside of their organizations. So for those of you that might not be familiar with zero-party data, that's okay. The other thing I'll mention is that you might hear direct from consumer data. Zero-party data is very much the industry term. But anyway, zero-party data is essentially data that a customer intentionally and or proactively shares with a brand or company, right? So think sign-up form, quizzes, polls, and of course surveys, which is what we do, and you can see an example of it right there. In a world that is super competitive, right? The D2C landscape has never been more competitive as it is today. Zero-party data, we believe at Fairing, is very much the secret sauce to gaining a competitive advantage within your industry and within your specific market. So today, about 2,500 scaling direct-to-consumer brands rely on Fairing as that key pillar of their ZPD strategy. So you can see some of the biggest and fastest growing brands. We're very heavily entrenched within the Shopify ecosystem to date. And we're helping these brands more or less more easily and effectively communicate with their consumers at scale, and then be able to leverage the data that they're collecting from those consumers to either improve their business or improve the experience and or offering they're giving back to those consumers. So the top use cases they're typically solving with data from Fairing is attribution, better understanding where our customers are coming from, where we're driving the biggest and best purchases, how our spend is performing right across all of our marketing mix, personalization, right? So we can better understand exactly who our consumers are, why do they like our products, so we can then find more of them. And then this concept of voice of customer, right? So this idea of kind of always incorporating consumer feedback into decisions that they're making. And again, that could be improving the experience they're offering, or maybe even improving the products they're building. But this all comes back to collecting information from your consumers to then better, just improve everything that they're doing with you and your brand. At Fairing, what we focus on is ensuring you can actually activate on all the data that you're collecting. So how we really differentiate from traditional surveys are a few of the things you see right here. On average, our brands see over a 50% response rate. And that way, you're getting a lot of data coming back, so you can make real use of that data across your organization. We also have analysis capabilities available directly within Fairing. So you can understand things like average order value, performance by channel, pivot different responses across questions to uncover insights, and then our integrations or destinations downstream. So traditional surveys, you collect a bunch of data. It's kind of hard to make use of it. It might sit in a spreadsheet, but with Fairing, we enable you to activate your data downstream across 20 plus solutions spanning attribution, BI and analytics, ESPs for personalization, data warehouses, et cetera. What these customer testimonials are meant to highlight is Fairing is not just a survey tool or a post-purchase survey tool. Yes, that is how we help you collect data from your consumers, but the data that we're collecting and providing back is really where Fairing becomes valuable. And that data becomes ingrained right across your organization as an essential component of key business decision-making. So everything from product innovation to a single source of truth for marketing analytics, to better understanding your key metrics are performing, everything from user acquisition to ROAS, all those traditional metrics you're always looking at very closely. Quick story here about the kind of impact Fairing can drive. So one of our customers, Brevity, they essentially make high-end backpacks for photographers, hikers, campers. When they launched, they were very much focused on going after high-income millennial enthusiasts, believing that was going to be their highest performing and target market. After launching Fairing's question stream and focusing on attribution, demographic, and lifestyle questions, Brevity uncovered that their highest average order value were actually coming from females 18 to 24 who are finding them on TikTok, right? And so now they've uncovered we actually have an entirely different demographic that we should be focusing on and going after. And we have this whole new channel we should be paying attention to and investing in. Right. And so now, because of the data Fairing collected for Brevity, they can go after an entirely different market. They can change the way they communicate. They can change the way they build their creative strategy. And again, all of that was due to the response data collected by their post-purchase survey. So going under the hood and getting into exactly how Fairing's question stream works. So as an always-on data stream, essentially how Fairing works is we route individual responses across your marketing stack in real time. And so a 10 question stream is going to be entirely different than a traditional 10 question survey. Each question you create and curate in your question stream is served up with its own timing and targeting, and each response is processed independently, even if a consumer leaves or drops off the page. So that's a fancy way of saying that if Alden were to land on Allbirds' website and make a purchase versus Jenna, they might actually be served and asked entirely different questions based on the attributes of who that customer, who that consumer actually is. The way I look at it is traditional surveys are typically one-off interactions, whereas Fairing provides you the ability to have an ongoing conversation with your customers. And that's exactly how purchasers want to be treated today. It's what they expect from a consumer experience perspective. A key component of Fairing, as I touched on, is as the data is collected and routed downstream, again, you've got all these different destinations you can then make use of or activate this data on. Led by in the top right-hand corner, you can see Klaviyo and Daasity. And we're going to touch a lot more on the value of those integrations and how you can capitalize on them from a use case perspective more so leveraging the zero-party data from Fairing. So when you think about collecting zero-party data, it's not just collecting whatever information you can. The key is collecting the type of data you're looking for, the kind of feedback you want. And so ultimately, the way we look at it is it comes down to being able to ask the right questions to the right customers at the right time, right? And by doing that, that's when you're able to really, with Fairing, impact the very next interaction you might have with a customer, because you're collecting this so quickly and enabled to activate on it in real time as well downstream. So for Daasity and Klaviyo in particularly, the way to look at that is, rather than just having response data kind of sitting by itself right in Fairing, something like, as an example with a Klaviyo, you can now start to utilize your zero-party data for personalization. So this is one of the top questions asked across our 2,500 plus brands is, who is this purchase for? Right. And so by asking a question, who is this purchase for, it might seem like pretty basic or pretty simple. But if someone is buying a product for themselves versus buying it for a friend or a family member or maybe a colleague, you know, have an entirely different data point about that user, and you can start to drill down and create different metrics based on these new kind of segments. And then with our direct integration to Klaviyo, you've got the ability to then take this data you've now collected, update a customer's profile downstream, kick off a custom flow. But again, the idea here is we're not treating every consumer the same way that bought our product. We're now able to delineate and create these unique segments to get a new understanding of who the customer is, and now how we can target and go after them downstream. And then if you bring Daasity into the mix, all this data becomes wildly more powerful. So as Marcel is going to touch on here in a little bit more detail, by bringing Fairing data into Daasity, right, you can then enrich all of the customer data and business metrics you already have in Daasity from your other key solutions and channels with this proprietary data set you've collected from Fairing. So you can create kind of that true holistic view of your marketing performance and a complete understanding of your customers. And this can unlock a plethora of new revenue insights and opportunities. So that was a bit of a tease. We're going to dive further into these use cases. I'm going to pass things over to Marcel from the Daasity team, who's going to dive into how brands are making the most use out of their survey response data.
So thank you, Alden. All right. So working with data in Daasity. So I'm going to give a little bit of a prerequisite on what Daasity is, and then talk a little bit more in depth about how it works together with Fairing. So Daasity does more than just extract data. We're an enterprise-grade end-to-end platform. We're also modular, and we have a big focus in data engineering and staff augmentation through our agency. So what does all of that mean? With our model, we connect to all of your different sources. So blending your commerce, your paid ad channels, your survey channels, bring them into a central database. We have some transformation logic, as well as a visualization tool built in. And then all of this comes together where we are able to send your data back to these platforms. So we truly are end to end. And from there, we also have a lot of different features for more technical members of your team. So Fairing data within Daasity, how does that look? So we use it in quite a few different places. And really, it's taking that first party data, combining it with other sources, and really leveraging it for more advanced features. So we're able to blend it with our unified schemas to blend it with your commerce channels, blend it with your customer profiles data, all in our centralized database. And something we'll touch on later when I go through our demo is how we use this for improving our marketing attribution. So you can really understand your customers, where they're coming from, and really just understanding the value of having that first party data along with all of your other channels. So, and when we say all of your data, we mean all of it. So we focus at Daasity to connect to all of your data sources. So we can bring in custom ones from databases. We have API integrations with partners such as Fairing. So we really do have a huge repository of data that lets us augment it with that first party data out of Fairing. And I kind of just touched on this, but we unify the data together. So we have both out of the box features for, your orders, your marketing, your customers. So we take it from all of your different channels, get it together in one place. So you have a really easy way to use all of it together with the fairing data as well. So from this, I'm actually going to go into a bit of a live demo to show some of the fairing data directly in our platform. So going over to this other tab here, this is the Daasity platform. So we have many different places. So we have out of the box dashboards. We also have custom explorers. We can go in and analyze different integrations that we have. So with fairing, we have an explorer so you can dive a little bit deeper into the survey responses. So I'm going to briefly touch on this and get back to it when we talk more about custom reporting. So this question here, how did you hear about us? This drives our marketing attribution dashboard when we're looking at survey-based attribution. So how did you hear about us directly from your customer? This lets you leverage the actual responses that Alden alluded to and get direct attribution from their responses. Also, as Alden was saying, over 50% of the customers do answer these questions. So it really gives you a chance to get very clean, accurate data. And you can see here that this is actually a count of the responses. So Facebook is a common one, Instagram, word of mouth. We're able to leverage these and build them into an attribution model and blend it with all of the other sources as well. So there's a configuration screen in our platform where you can basically choose what you think is the best attribution. So you can then apply this and use it in all of the different explorers along with your customer data, with your order data, etc. So as you can see here, we by default actually put survey-based at the top because it is the most trustworthy. It's first party, you get it from your customers. What this actually does is drive a few different models, but one that visualizes it really well is this marketing dashboard. So we have built in many different ways of looking and splitting out your attribution. So all attribution, I like to say, is wrong, but with survey-based, it's a lot more accurate because it's your customer telling you what made them make a purchase. So rather than focusing on a first click or an ad click, if it was actually related to a customer response, you can definitely weight that one a little bit higher. And what this does is in our dashboard, you can switch between them. But when you go and use the fairing response data, you get a direct mapping to those different channels. And there is another configurable screen in our platform where you can really dive deep or roll these up. That looks something like this. So you can take the fairing response data and group them into different channels and vendors. So if you did find a response in that original visualization we saw that you want to split out, you can analyze that and clean it up and apply it to a grouping where you can use it really easily within our marketing models. So that's one portion of fairing in Daasity. Another way that it can be used is if you blend it together with some of our other visualizations. So lifetime value and recency models lets you really understand your customer better. So the unified schemas I talked about where we blend all of your data together make this possible. So you're getting all of your customer data, assigning their first purchase, all of the orders afterwards, and seeing at what point you can expect them to repurchase, the lifetime value you can associate to them. You can break it out by the same channels from the response data and really start analyzing like what SKUs to focus on and also blending it along with that marketing data. So seeing how much it costs to acquire someone and the lifetime value you can actually expect to make from them. So with all of that combined, it shows that Daasity really enriches the fairing response data. And then you can use this later on to actually power some of the strategies using our audiences product. So with the RFM model, it's also something you can configure. But in essence, what this lets you do is bucket your customers based on how valuable they are. You can change a few of the different models to actually decide. So recency, how recent did they choose or purchase a product, how often they purchase, and the monetary value of those purchases. From that, there's also some other dashboards I can get into, but in essence, what we do with Daasity is take all of those things together and also give you an out-of-the-box solution where you can already segment these different customers by their gender, by their value. You could also have, lapsed customers, your churning high-value customers. So you can use all these things to go and use a platform like Klaviyo plus Daasity to go and target them with a discount code, with an email, something to drive an action to get those customers back on track. And we have a lot of these built out of the box. In addition to these out of the box ones, which you get just with Daasity, there is also the ability to create custom segments as well. So this is that same explore I showed at the beginning, but there's also a customizing feature to fairing. So if you had a specific question you wanted to ask and get responses to, you could then go and blend this along with all of those other features I went through and figure out a custom strategy to target them. So the final piece of the puzzle is audiences. So what this lets you do with Daasity is send that data back to Klaviyo profiles, events, Attentive, Facebook, TikTok, Google Ads, and use those same reports that we just went to as a starting point. So we have all these different reports, so you can make custom ones, and the Daasity out of the box ones are all available right here. So if you wanted to implement a strategy for all of those features, you can then go target those customers in the platforms I just talked through. So overall, Daasity is end-to-end. We're modular, and there's also a portion that you can customize to really use it and meet all of your strategies for your brand. So this is just a graphic showing, how the data flows through Daasity. So really, you take your data, you analyze it, make some sense of it, and push it back to your platform. With that, I'm actually going to give the keys over to Brandon so you can go on with his next portion of the presentation.
Awesome, thanks. Do we want to do that poll now?
I will launch the poll.
Right.
It should be live. I'm just looking at your repeat purchase rate. So far it's been crickets in chat, but I know there are a few merchants here. So if you all would like to share this, then you can. And Brandon, you can take off whenever you want. I'm going to leave this open for just a handful more seconds.
Yeah, no rush. So just really quickly, background on Electric and myself. We're a 50-person Shopify Plus agency solely focused on customer experience and retention marketing. So almost all the work that we're doing for brands is around how to create better customer experiences. And a lot of that is dependent on the data we have and then the tools that we leverage in order to actually enable strategies based off of the data insights that we get. So our whole thesis behind how we select our tech partners, but also how we work with them, is that the 1 + 1 = 3 approach. So like you can use fairing by itself, you could use Daasity by itself, but when we use them together, we're able to get outsized returns because of the way that they work together from an integration standpoint. So just as like a quick high level of how we're leveraging fairing on its own, a lot of it is attribution, a lot of it is gathering customer feedback, as well as very specific data points that we can then use for segmentation. And then almost all of these things we're funneling into Klaviyo or Attentive so that we can create segments and then personalized content and communications to go out to them with. So some of your 4 like main use cases are attribution, the segmentation and personalization, CRO on the website, and then also research. So like, what would you Google to find a brand like ours, or are you switching from a competitor? Now, these 4 sort of core use cases all plug and funnel into Daasity, and then Daasity is able to enrich this data with other sources. So whether it's like Shopify data, or if it's Gorgeous data or some other app, and then push those audiences into our relevant marketing platforms. So I know Marcel already showed some of these graphs, but really Daasity is ingesting all this data from the various third-party apps that we use, and then pushes it out to the marketing channels that we leverage in order to either acquire customers or retain customers. So using Daasity by itself without fairing, we're missing out on a couple of these sort of core use cases that I put together here. So the questions at the top, these are all things that you can ask out of the box with fairing and are typically ones that we're implementing. So the first one being, who is this purchase for? That's sort of the whole end user versus actual purchaser dilemma. So if it's somebody purchasing it as a gift, needing to know that in order to communicate with them appropriately. Another thing would be age. Third would be questions like, how do you use this product? Fourth would be, is our product in line with your price expectations, to get a sense of their sort of price sensitivity? Then Daasity can take this data from fairing, but layer in other sources. So for example, a common use case for us is whether or not a discount code was used on the first purchase. And if it was, what was the discount code? Because depending on that discount code, that could impact and inform the timing of the second order, when we want to send the follow-up emails and texts. It could also inform what the next product recommendations are if we do want to surface another discount or another offer in that second email or text. All of that is being powered by Daasity being able to ingest the data and then push out the audience into Klaviyo for us to target to. Other examples would be whether or not they are subscribed to SMS. What's the average time between orders for a customer who comes through and is within a certain price sort of category or uses the product in a certain way? An example that we were chatting through while preparing for this was running shoes. So if you're like a running shoe company, asking a question after checkout, such as how many miles a year do you run, or how many miles a month do you run? Then Daasity can take that data from fairing, layer in other sources, such as like, what is the historical time for that customer's average time between orders, and then tell us as the agency or as the brand, hey, you should be sending a follow-up to this particular customer at 45 days or at 75 days or whatever it may be, because based off of their mileage and based off of the other data sources that we've pulled in here, they're going to need to reorder at day 100 or something like that. So that's really the power behind why we like to leverage the two solutions together. But it extends beyond fairing as well, because we're able to ingest Shopify data, we're able to ingest other data to create this really enriched customer profile that allows us to get very, very specific with the messaging and targeting that we're sending out.
Cool. Thanks, Brandon. I can take it for the next slide. If you just want to keep sharing, that's fine. I can just drop
sure.
everything in the chat. So we do have some webinar exclusive offers for our attendees. Fairing, you are going to offer an extended trial. Alden, do you want to talk a little bit about that? And I'll drop the link in the chat.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Jenna. So using the promo code you see there, June 30, that will automatically extend your fairing trial to 30 days. We typically do a 14-day free trial. Just wanted to share, when you go to fairing to sign up, you'll select a plan first. And then once you select your plan, use that code and you'll be put on the free trial. So I just like to clarify that. Again, you'll select the plan, but then you'll be on the free trial. And please, while you're engaged in the free trial, reach out to us. We're happy to help with any questions, help optimize right from the get-go, and ensure you're getting value as quickly as possible.
Okay, I added that link to the chat. And for Daasity, we are going to give you ungated access to our GA4 ebook. I guess you have less than a month for that transition. So we're seeing people come over very last minute to understand what they need to do for their data. But this is just a good resource, regardless if you use Daasity or not. And you can also find more. I'll drop the link to our GA4 resource hub that outlines just a few more specifics, and again, kind of agnostic of platform. And then Brandon, if you want to talk us through kind of what your marketing audit entails, it sounds like y'all have a pretty sweet offer for us.
Yeah, so any brand who is thinking about working with electric goes through our audit process, which is essentially a complete deep dive into your pre-purchase and post-purchase customer experience. So from the moment a customer lands on your website all the way through what are the post-purchase communications thereafter. So it's essentially a UI UX audit of the front end experience of the website, a tech stack audit as well, because as mentioned, the tech stack is really important in being able to enable what we want to do from a post-purchase standpoint. And then we dig really deeply into their email and SMS flows. And that's what we've been using for the last year and a half. And it's been the way that we've been able to grow and have the success that we've had thus far.
Thank you. Okay, I think that wraps it up. We did have a couple of questions come in. So first one is more kind of looping all of the two tools together. So Brandon, I think this one maybe you could answer, but are there any data points either from fairing or just in general that you and your team kind of look at to understand if somebody is more primed to purchase from email and like on the immediate follow-up, either email or SMS? Or is that just kind of like you look at their first purchase and you kind of go off of that? But I guess more broadly, like what data are you looking at to understand that immediate follow-up?
I think that's where Daasity is so helpful, because as a marketer, like we can make assumptions or we can guess around whether or not, like if that person is subscribed to SMS marketing, whether or not an email touch point or an SMS touch point might be better for them. Whereas Daasity, with all the data on all of our customers who are subscribed to SMS marketing and then layering in the other like criteria factors, is better equipped to tell us, hey, this person should be receiving 3 texts or they should be receiving like 1 text. And so that's how we think about it, because as much decision-making that can be taken away from, I guess, us as like the human and put into the hands of the data and the actual algorithm, that's where we prefer to operate. Because who am I to say that for this particular customer, they should receive 3 texts versus another receiving 2 or receiving 1.
There was a follow-up to that too, or a second part B. It was, what are you seeing work with SMS right now, just in general?
So for SMS, I really like to use transactional SMS communications, at least from anecdotally or like customer interviews that we've done. They find those to be the most helpful. It's things like your order's out for delivery or your order is delivered. Whereas your SMS marketing messages can be a little bit overbearing. And so it's important to look at and monitor very closely like what your unsub rate is on campaigns and automations. But from a positive like customer experience standpoint, implementing transactional SMS has been really powerful for a lot of the brands that we're working with, even if they don't use SMS as a marketing channel, because it just makes that post-purchase customer experience better. And then the other thing would be allowing them to manage their subscriptions via text as well. So reply like 1 to skip this order. So I don't even have to log into my portal. I don't have to do anything. Like the other day, I got a subscription order from a brand that I didn't even remember that I was subscribed to. I looked through my emails. There were no emails. I looked through my texts. There were no texts. I actually did find one email, but it was in my spam, and they sent a transactional email as a marketing email, so you could unsubscribe from it. But that's an example of where things go awry if you don't have those like transactional communications set up properly. And with text, you're almost guaranteed that the customer is going to get it. Whereas email, it can get lost.
Did they give you a refund? That's the big question.
I got to look at my email. I try to not be the annoying customer, but at the same time, I'm like, you really should work with us, because why would you send a transactional email?
Oh yeah, it's probably a good hook for you and your services.
Yeah.
Okay, last question I had that came in that actually everyone on the panel can answer. So Alden, we'll start with you, but what recommendations do you have right now for BFCM prep? So Black Friday, Cyber Monday, for those of you who don't speak acronyms like us marketing folks, but do you have any best practices to start gathering data for that time period?
So I think the first one is maybe something most folks would say, but it's typically start planning and start earlier than you think you might need to. But I think fundamentally, when you think about fairing, one of the interesting use cases for BFCM that we see brands enlist is asking what their consumers want around that time frame, right? And so what they'll actually ask is, what are you looking for, right? Do you want a sale? Do you want one less email in your inbox? Do you want us to release new products? Do you want to be part of like an exclusive release? around that timing, right? And so I think getting ahead as far as you can to understand actually what your customers and consumers want around that time frame. And then fundamentally, that's one of the key value props of fairing, right? Is if you want to know how your customers want to be treated and communicated with, just ask your customers directly. And so that's a very unique way you can leverage fairing to better understand. Alden wants a sale, Jenna wants one less email in her inbox, Brandon wants to be reached out to by text, Marcel wants to feel like he's part of an exclusive group. So that's probably like one of the main recommendations we would make to any brand.
Thank you. Brandon and Marcel, you want to go next?
Yeah, I can take next. So following up with what Alden said, I think really making those decisions, you should start analyzing your data now. Look at what happened the previous years, what worked, what didn't work, and learn from that data. So that's really where Daasity can step in and give you some dashboards and access to all of that year-over-year data so you can really understand what happened. And from there, you should also get your GA4 set up, because if you're going to be targeting them, it stops working in 24 days, the old universal analytics. So I would say take that seriously, and then also just analyze what happened in the previous years.
All right, Brandon, you want to round us out?
Sure. Could you just repeat the question again?
Yeah, so do you have any best practices for data collection pre-BFCM, like in order to get prepped up for that period?
Pre-BFCM. There's a lot, but I think the biggest thing for BFCM is actually the customer versus end user problem. Like we want that implemented on every store that we work with fairing is the question, who is this purchase for? The holiday period, you're going to be getting a ton of people who are buying products that aren't actually for themselves. And so you should have separate post-purchase logic for those folks, especially if they've never purchased from you before. So like one of the nice things we like to do is hit them with a follow-up email almost immediately. Like, hey, why don't you treat yourself to an order as well? Like, here's a discount code. And you don't want to send them your post-purchase thank you welcome emails and all the educational content and stuff like that if they're just buying it as a gift for somebody else. So like, how do you go and get the email or the phone number for the person who's actually getting the product? So not pre-BFCM, but I would definitely have that implemented for BFCM.
All right, thank you. All right, it looks like I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. So I think with that, we can wrap up unless anyone pops one in last minute. Other than that, everyone who showed up, thank you so much for taking the time, and to our panelists, thank you all. Appreciate you as well. And as a reminder, Daasity will be sending this out as a recording. So it'll be coming to your inbox probably in the next couple days. And yeah, other than that, thanks so much for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right, bye everybody.